Okay, so the actual BootStrap framework is built on a grid system, which provides a quick and easy way to create a layout for your website or your landing page. It actually includes predefined grid classes for quickly making grid layouts for different types of devices such as smartphones, tablets, laptops and desktop devices. If you go ahead and click on the CSS section within the BootStrap website and actually choose the grid system from the right hand side, this section actually includes the official description of the grid system. So you can see here it states BootStrap includes a responsive, mobile-first fluid grid system that appropriately scales up to 12 columns as the device or the viewpoint size increases. Now there is a nice introduction section here that goes into more detail, and it's actually worth reading it at some point if you're not 100% sure how the grid works later on. But I'll not go through it now because that won't be very exciting, but it's just an idea to go through that at your own time. But if we scroll down to the grid options, we can actually look at how the grid system works on different devices. So in this table here we have our device information across the top and our different options down the left hand side. So we can see that on the extra small devices the grid is horizontal at all times, or collapsed shall we say, and it actually fills the width of the device until it hits a small device which is the width of 768 pixels or higher. So you can actually see that the small devices are actually shown as collapsed and have a containing width of 750 pixels. So there will actually be some guttering down either side of the content, which almost acts as a border for the content. Then as the screen size increases, the containing widths will increase as well. So here you can see the medium devices, or anything above 992 pixels, will have a containing width of 970 pixels. And then the large devices, such as desktops or anything over 1200 pixels, the containing width will actually be 1170 pixels. So this table also shows what class prefix you need to add to your code if you want to display content differently on each device. And also, just to mention, the number of columns will always be 12 unless you state it otherwise within your code. Now we'll actually be going through this as we create our landing page, but it's good to have a basic understanding of how the grid system sort of works so you don't get completely lost as we work our way through the lectures. So if you just scroll down to this stacked example here, we can actually see how the columns work. So this one here is for a medium device, as you can see with the MD here. And this top row here has a class column of 1, and it actually has a total of 12 columns. So it will just display 12 separate columns along the entire row. If we added more than 12 into the grid down here, it would just slot it underneath these and it wouldn't actually look too good. And if we look at the next row, we can see there are size classes of 8 and 4, which again totals up to 12 columns. However, the first section contains content that will fill 8 columns and the second will fill just 4 columns. Then the next row contains 3 size classes that are set to 4. So each bit of content will be displayed in sections that are 4 columns wide along the same row. Then finally in this example we can see that 2 sections have size classes of 6. So that will actually split the content into 2 sections as 6 goes into 12 2 times. Now there are more examples further down the page that will be worth having a look over at some point. However, we will be using the grid system a lot during the lecture, so you'll soon get a grasp of how it works and how to easily lay out a page using BootStrap. But before we move on, if we just go to the BootStrap homepage, we can actually see the grid in action here. So here we are using the large class as the page's full width. And if we just look at this section here, we can see that it uses a class of 4 on this content, as it is actually split into 3 sections. So there's 4 columns wide here, 4 here and 4 here, which of course makes up 12 columns. So if we bring the page in, we can actually see it snap into the medium and small classes, which are also set to 4, as the content is split into 3 sections. It's not actually until we hit the small devices which uses a full 12 columns and gives the content its own row. So that's the basic introduction of the grid system, but like I said, we will be covering it a lot during the course, so you'll soon get used to it and see how easy it is to actually use. But next we're going to have a look at the media queries and look at how they work within the BootStrap framework. I can actually show you an example of the grid system with this code here. Now we have numbers 1 to 6, and on the large screen each number will take up 12 columns within the grid, so they will actually be stacked on top of each other, as it states here. Now on medium devices they will split into 2 sections, as we'll have a size class of 6, as 6 goes into 12 2 times. And on the small devices they will have 3 sections, as 4 goes into 12 3 times. And the extra small devices, they will actually be split into 6 columns as 2 goes into 12 6 times. And now if I just show an example here. So here we have the large device, which is 12 columns wide. Then we hit the medium, it splits into 2 sections with a size class of 6. Then the small we have 3 because that has a size class of 4. Then the extra small device we have a size class of 2, so that splits it into 6 different sections. So if I wanted to put 1 and 2 in the same row on a large screen, all I need to do is change this 12 here to a 6, and that should actually split them if I save that off and refresh the page. There you go. So hopefully that kind of all makes sense. I've attached this example to the lecture, so feel free to download it and have a play around with the grid and see how they work. But you'll soon get used to the grid system, like I said, as we work our way through the lectures. This is just a basic quick introduction, so it gives you an idea before we move on.